Namaste. Welcome to Satsang today. I thought today that we might do some meditation together because I'm feeling kind of chilled out, more so than usual, and I really don't want to work too hard. So we could just slide into some meditation together into the natural state of our being, which is effortless peace and developing, deepening joy, love, and the reflection of that in our life as abundance of all kinds, happiness, love, respect, money, anything and everything that we could want, energy, vitality, passion, well-being, on and on it goes. So when it comes to meditation, I've found that the simpler, the better. So we're just going to dive into some meditation. Just before we do that, I want to just point out one thing that held me back, one thought that held me back enormously in my trying to find peace and then trying to keep or hold on to peace, which we can't really ever do. And that is the way that our egoic sense of self, our mind functions. It works in opposites. It works in duality. It thinks there are two things, and then it tries to pick one or the other. And we're going to directly challenge that in today's meditation. So right now and in the background, perhaps for most of us, at all times, there is an infinite silence that is our real nature. Most of us have our attention habitually placed on what is at the foreground of our experience, just as I had to start off with. And that is the noise, the change, the movement, the coming and going, the thoughts, emotions, experiences. And awakening for me was really a journey of learning to focus habitually on that which is quietly in the background of our experience and not changing, not moving, never appears or disappears. And because of that, it can be easy to overlook it. And even once we've noticed this infinite silence, it can be overshadowed by this either or opposites idea. If we allow our mind to take the silence, it will say that it is the opposite of sound, the opposite of movement, and that we can only experience one or the other at any time. So how this plays out in meditation is that we may notice silence and then some thought pops up, and then when attention goes to a thought or a sound in our environment, we seem to lose the silence. So we make some effort then to try to get back to silence. That's actually impossible because the silence is always here. All we need to do, in fact, is to see through this idea that it's one or the other. So if you're listening to these words now, then you're listening to something. You're listening to my words. You're paying attention to an object. They come and go, these words. They're not here forever. But there is another easier way to listen, and that is just to listen to the silence and to challenge this idea that you can only hear silence or sound, one or the other at any one time. When I stop talking, there is a silence that is much more perceptible. If you've ever walked past or had an ambulance with its siren going off go past you, after a very loud noise, suddenly there's a ringing, almost palpable silence in the background, which seems to then be overshadowed again as some noise. And it's usually the noise of our mind talking seems to replace the silence. But what if that's not really true? What if we can come to question and challenge that? Maybe the sounds, the words that you're hearing now, the thoughts, the ambulance siren, even a busy airport or shopping centre, all of that noise is contrasting against and helping you recognize the silence that's still here. So right now, there is this silence. And then the fact that you can hear these words is because you're listening from that silent place. You can tell the difference between silence and sound. And there is a huge difference in how we move through our life when we are listening to words, listening to thoughts, listening to our experience, paying attention to things only. And the awakened way in which we're listening to the silence, and also in that silence, effortlessly we're hearing the sounds coming and going. Again, just challenging this idea that it has to be one or the other. What if that one thought is responsible for you seemingly losing this infinite silence and the peace that comes with it? What if the next time mind speaks, or some emotion moves, or some experience happens that we'd rather not have, we don't believe that the silence has gone from the background? Just stepping back from the way our egoic sense of self functions, which is either or, noise or silence, sound or silence, awareness or thoughts. But you can't have the thought without the awareness of it. And you can't hear a sound without the silence it's appearing in. So let's just practice that. Let's just take 10 to 15 minutes now to relax into the silence of our being. And I'll guide us through it. We're just going to listen for the silence. And at first we can notice it by a contrast. When these words stop, the silence is more perceptible. At first, the absence of sound helps us to recognize the presence and absence of sound. By contrast, helps us to recognize the silence. We're just going to spend some time listening to this silence. And if you relax as you're meditating, we're not trying to listen to silence or sound. We're noticing that we have the capacity to listen to silence and also the sounds that happen in our environment, including these words we can just listen to. They're just coming and going inside that silence, contrasting with it. Contrasting, but not opposite. So just relaxing, noticing there's a silence in the background of these words. And whatever other sounds you can hear, there is a lawnmower going on outside. There's somebody hammering across the street. There may be some thoughts going through your mind, maybe sensations in your body. Just recognizing that the silence is still here. It's not replaced by a sound. And letting go of this either or thinking. Silence and sound are not opposites. Sound is silence taking a form, making a shape. We can relax. There's no work for us to do here. We're just listening to this silence in the background. And just stepping back from feeling that we've lost the silence when any sound moves, whether that sound is internal sound of thoughts and emotions or external noises in the world, the room around us, our environment. Recognizing we have the capacity already to listen to the silence, and when we're listening to silence, it's an open listening in which we also hear the sounds. We don't have to manage anything here in this meditation. Recognizing that sounds cannot be present without the silence they appear in. The silence is a background, empty space, utterly silent. And it is not disturbed by any sound. It is constant. That we only seem to lose awareness of the silence if we try to pick one or the other. So just relaxing here with me, listening for the silence. At first it seems in the background, underneath, behind the sounds. This is the silence of our being. This is our real nature. It's very restful when we notice it. It allows our mind and body to begin to relax. We're not paying attention to anything in particular. We're just listening openly to this silence. And attention will wander off occasionally to thoughts, to a sound outside, to a sensation in the body, to an emotion. It's totally okay. Just redirecting, listening to the silence again when you realize no hard work to do here. As I listen to the silence, I hear the thoughts in my mind also. I hear external noises. But I can't really zoom in and focus on them because I'm just open. I'm relaxed. They're coming and going. Silence is here. Very simple meditation. Recognizing the effect of this thought that if we choose one or the other, we experience either or. Silence or thoughts, silence or sound. We're just choosing not to do that anymore for this time. silence and thoughts, silence and emotion, silence and whatever we're experiencing. And here, noticing there's no battle, there's no effort, no struggle. Just paying attention to that which is always here. And letting that which comes and goes come and go. That there's nothing we need to get rid of. Thoughts can't obscure or hide the silence unless we believe they can, unless we're trying to choose one or the other. How different would it be to experience your mind from the silence, where no thought could ever again obscure this infinite, peaceful quietness. And any time we seem to lose this silence, it's only because we've gone back to this habit of choosing one or the other. And we simply step out of that again. Just listening, enjoying, open, free. No work to do here. There's silence all around these words. These words are made of silence, just as our thoughts are too. Anything that arises out of this silence is silence. Thoughts, emotions, experiences. Just recognizing that any time we're choosing from the seeming opposites, silence and sound, that we are blocking something out of our experience and we'll feel diminished in some way. And then we simply don't have to do that anymore. When we're listening to silence, we can't exclude anything. It's natural. Enjoying how it feels to be, to just be, to just listen. At all times, this infinite silence is present. It is your real nature, your permanent being. It doesn't need anything at all. It doesn't even need us to notice it, although life is much more pleasant when we do. It is possible to move through your entire day listening like this. It's simply a habit to choose one or the other. And any habit can be replaced with a new one of just listening to silence. And also, we'll hear whatever else we need to hear, because we're open. You are naturally silent. So, I hope you enjoyed those few moments of meditation together. And I hope you are beginning to realize, or deeply realizing, how much simpler it can be to be free than perhaps you may have imagined. That really all an awakened being has done is to form this new habit consistently, to just listen rather than listening to something. That in the listening to something, we are excluding some part of our experience. And that habit to just listen will become, like any habit, automatic, effortless, constant. Just imagining for a moment with me what it would be like to not be able to pay attention to thoughts only ever again. And that habit becomes continuous, where thoughts arise and you can reference them if you need to, but never again can you only focus on those or zoom into something. So that's a very simple and very direct form of meditation, which is extraordinarily powerful in shifting your identity over to a deeper recognition that this silence is your essential nature. It is your permanent being. Sounds come and go. Silence is constant, always constant. So I will leave some time for questions and comments, and if you're having any challenges, you're welcome to raise your hand. I see that we have one hand up already. Lisa, when you're ready.
Hi, Helen. Oh, it's so lovely to connect with you. I just came across you last week, and I went onto your website and I read your bio, and I just felt so strongly called to try and connect with you. And I really appreciated what you wrote about your process and coming into pitfalls along the way. And I feel like I'm in a pitfall at the moment, and I just really wanted to be able to check in and kind of just get some perspective and some guidance. Yeah. The meditation was just so profound, and it really linked me into that direct experience of presence. And you said something that was really interesting for me, which was not choosing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had the experience where I saw that there was no one here, yet I still existed,
Yeah.
there was such a shift of focal point for me. And, you know, that recognition of self seemed so simple and so present. But when I came back into my life and back into being a mum and around my partner with his own stresses and everything like that, the experience of personhood came back in, and that was really perplexing and confusing for me, because the seeing that there was no one here yet I still existed was so shocking. But all of a sudden, the emotions and mind was here. And so it really kind of threw me into this place. And then when I discovered that, oh, okay, so there's really just a choice. There's only one. I to align with what I saw or to follow a thought. That became my practice, was that choice. So hearing you say in meditation today, there doesn't have to be a choice, is quite, it's really profound, because that has been, I think, the big loop for me.
Yeah.
When the realization first happened, there was no choice. There was no choice. It just was there. And then I recognized that I was making a choice. And so I felt like I had lost something, because I was back into this choosing of, and I haven't been able to connect with anyone. It's been 2 years, and I've just been vacillating between this experience. When I had the initial experience, it was on the other side of the world with a teacher that I can't connect with. And so I've just been kind of in this limbo state of not really knowing where to go from here.
It's perhaps the most unpleasant part of the whole. You've had a seeing, and you've seen what you kind of really are, and how shocking different that is to what we thought, and how total that seems. And then suddenly, but there just seems to be someone here, and all that's going on with that someone, and what happened to that peace and that infinite space of being that was there before. And for a while there seems to be a choice, doesn't there, that I have to choose the silence, ironically. I know that's paradoxical to what I said, but at first we have to choose the silence until we realize the choice then is becoming the issue. It's my very insistence that silence and sound are different, two different things, that are making me vacillate now, backwards and forwards, in and out, and you know what that's like. And they become more and more polarized, seeming opposites, don't they? One's heavenly, one's just awful. And eventually it occurred to me that my very choosing what to focus on now was the issue. And it occurred to me one day, I was listening to the silence, and I just heard the birds singing outside, and thought, I can naturally hear everything phenomenal that I need to hear when my attention is on the silence. Actually, choosing silence isn't really choosing, because it's inclusive of everything, or presence, or whatever we want to call it. It was such a breakthrough for me that it was just this one idea that it was either or that had been really plaguing my existence at that point. Sometimes that's all that's left that's causing suffering, that one idea. Because you can see that there isn't anyone here, but there will always seem to be someone here. You will seem to be a mom and a sister, or whatever you are, and whatever role you play will seem to be going on here. But that's all right. It just seems to be when you've seen it isn't. But then, of course, what we all do is, okay, that one should go away if it's not real, and I just want to be the emptiness. I don't want to be someone, because the emptiness feels more peaceful. But what if that's not true? What if it's only because we're trying to get rid of something out of our experience? What if that is the disturbance that we're feeling now? I'm trying to get rid of this idea of me because it's not real. It shouldn't be there. But you need it, right? You need that someoneness to do what you need to do in your everyday life.
Yes, yeah. And that's interesting. I think there's this also this concept that's been birthed from reading other masters of this joy, this constant joy and bliss that's always there. And I don't experience that. I don't experience complete bliss and joy. I still can experience emotions. And so I think there's also, it's not just sound, it's also the choice between do I believe this emotion, or okay, shift the focal point to the infinite self. And but yeah, so how would you speak to the feeling level as well as it's the sound,
it's again this idea of either or, isn't it? That there's a phenomenal world of beings outside, objects outside, and then all these phenomena inside me, thoughts and emotions, everything we experience, my body as well being a phenomenon even. And as you begin to let go of this either orness, it'll become clearer and clearer that, and you can do some direct investigation if you want to speed that up. What really is all of this? What really is this emotion? What really is this thought? What is it made out of? If we focus on the label we give something, we experience that label. It's this fear. Okay, I know how long this fear is going to go on for, and I won't be able to feel peace until the fear's gone. And on it goes. And I have to do this, this, and this to get rid of the fear. And I began to focus on the essence. Well, what really is fear, actually? Is it really, what actually is it? I don't really know. And then there was just this softening into the experiencing the essence of everything. That the presence of fear doesn't have to diminish the peace. In fact, it can even enhance it, because here's another shape that the peace, that the silence is taking. It's looking like fear. And if I listen to the label more than I experience the fear directly, I'm going to have a very different experience. And then I'm going to push against the fear and try to get back in this either orness. And it's just a deepening. Okay, I am not a thing. I never have been a thing or an object. Well, what are all the rest of these objects then, including these internal objects of emotions and thoughts? It's got sort of an open, taking the inquiry that has worked so well inside to the rest of what we think we see and experience. And it's a beautiful unfolding then of, instead of, okay, I don't feel peace, love, and joy, I need to get rid of this fear and unworthiness and all of that first. Is that true, or is that the either orness again? Can you see where we're going with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so just sit with the inquiry of what is this made out of, and what is the apparency of the outside world made out of. And
just like you've done with yourself, you made a choice at some point to focus more on the essence of your being rather than what you think you are. And it's the same then with an emotion or another being. What really is this other being? I know what experience I have when I think about them. What's the experience I have when I want to know what they are also? And life becomes a kind of constant open enjoyment of this inquiry. You're either going to experience your world or you're going to experience your thoughts about your world. And they are totally different now. Totally different. And you're kind of in this open, unguarded place where you're willing to experience anything, but you're not only going to think about it anymore. It's just what we were doing with our self, isn't it? And now we're starting to see that self is everywhere, that I can experience that emptiness that peace, that quietness everywhere.
Okay. Beautiful.
And life is very good at showing you where you're still listening to the labels, right? It will help you with it. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Lovely.
Thank you.
So good to talk to you. Lovely, lovely.
Yeah, really
nice
good.
to meet you.
Do you so is this regular, the satsangs? And
yeah, we do every other Monday and every other Thursday. Guessing from your accent, the Thursday may not be so accessible in the evenings, but UK time. But it's all recorded anyway. And
well, I think it's so wonderful to be able to connect in with you and just speak to you in person, be able to connect with someone in person.
What you've spoken about today is very valuable, because a lot of beings get stuck. I certainly did. That the choice itself becomes the issue in the end. And that's the only place we're kind of dividing ourselves anymore into two.
Okay, so just allowing everything to be as it is without choosing, because the knowing of the self is always there. It's always there, even though the mind and emotions are there as well. So it's like a merging of it all.
Yeah, you can see the idea we all have is, or maybe you can see the idea we all have is, the awakened state is when all these negative emotions and all these thoughts have gone. And it's really not like that, actually. It's the when I see what all these thoughts and emotions really are, then I'll stop fighting them, and then they'll dissolve anyway into they're coming back into peace anyway, by themselves. We hold them in a shape. This is what fear is. This is what unworthiness is. This is what anger is. I know what it is, because we are infinitely powerful.
So you still experience thoughts and emotions. It's just that there's no attachment to them.
Very, very infrequently now. But when they do come up, that's just another shape I'm taking. Isn't that interesting? Look at that. Whereas before it was, that shouldn't be there. That's evidence that I'm not awakened yet. Now it's just like, oh, you don't look at the sky and sort of criticize the shape of the clouds, do you? I like that one, but not that one. That's what we're all doing. And then we believe more in the shape than the actual thing itself.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm sure it's helped many people. Good to talk to you. Thank you. Sarah? Hi, you're muted there, Sarah. There we go. Lovely.
Hi, Helen. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. I have a question. I think my issue is I have always been overly empathetic. So, like for you, do you um do you still feel other people's pain and suffering and like all these emotions, and do you get affected by that?
Just repeat that last bit. Do I feel other people's emotions and pain, did you say?
Yeah, do you get affected by that?
Right. Yeah, I used to, very much so, and spent a lot of time by myself because of that idea, that experience. But it drove me to investigate, what is it that's really hurting me? Is it other people's emotions and energies that are affecting me? Or is there something else at play here? I wanted to be able to feel as peaceful wherever I was, whether I was at home by myself or in a room full of beings. And as I started to investigate this, I really realized it was the sense that there are other beings outside of me, that there is something separate to me, this other being, and that their energy is affecting me. this belief in separation, me and other. Yeah. So when I began to investigate this, I still experience energies and emotions from other beings, but it's not experiences other than me. So it doesn't affect me in the same way. It just passes through the emptiness of my being, and it doesn't leave any trace inside, it doesn't have any effect inside. It's no different to me than my own thoughts or emotions or energies. It's this idea that something outside of me is outside of my control and it's affecting me here. So if you're having that challenge, I suggest kind of looking at that, questioning that in particular and seeing if that helps. In reality, there aren't any other beings. There's only energies, frequencies. All of this manifestation is just vibration frequencies. And it's our ideas that here is where I am here, and this over here is separate to me and can hurt me outside of me. If it's outside of me and separate to me, I can't control it. It may hurt me, it may attack me. And we're experiencing that on a subtler level with other people's energies, that I here, me, this separate being, are being affected, swamped by these other people's energies. Can you get a sense of it?
So like you still feel like all the emotions, energies, everything, but you don't have personal preference as to.
Yeah, because sometimes you might encounter somebody and they feel very closed, very resistant, and they just don't want to hear what you're saying. Sometimes you might experience someone being very open and a much lighter energy, but there's no difference between those two for me now, because they're just frequencies. Like there's no difference between red in the rainbow and green in the rainbow. They're just different frequencies. It's not that one has a capacity to hurt me and the other one is going to uplift me. So if I used to be that, if I was around a very happy person, I'd be really excited and uplifted, and then I'd come crashing down afterwards. And if I was around someone who was very sad or grieving or depressed, I would feel drained and pulled down, and I had to work to get myself back up again. But all that, those frequencies just pass through the emptiness, the silence, and are sometimes transmuted, changed, lifted for that being in the awakened state. But there isn't any sense that they're different. A higher or lower frequency is just a higher or lower frequency. Very different way of experiencing them.
Thank you.
Have a play with it, see where you get to with it.
Yeah. I also want to share another thing, like last Christmas, during Christmas Eve, I had a seizure, and then I had an amazing experience. And then when I came back, because when I lost my consciousness, it was so beautiful. It was so perfect. It was just the feeling was just like huge. And then when I came back, I like became a person again. The first thing came to my mind was like, I don't need to be here. I was a little bit funny, a little bit like having fun,
Yeah.
Oh, it's so perfect, it's so complete. And then you became a person like, I don't need to be here. And then, throughout the day, we put on a lot of like duties. I need to do this. I need to look after that. It just always came back to me like, okay, I don't need to be here. I just
why not
feel a little bit.
Why not have both experiences at the same time? Instead of you became a person again, what if your personhood just appeared in front of you again? And it's possible to be in that expanded place that you were talking about, where everything is, where I don't even need this body. I can enjoy it while it's here, but I don't need it. I'm using it to experience myself, all of this. Here's this idea of either or again, isn't it? I was in this bigger place, and then I had to come back into this smaller place. And I really didn't like that. But the fullest awakened state is I'm both of those, and they're both here at the same time. If I don't believe this idea that because this person, seeming person appeared again, that I've lost, that there, you can begin to experience that other place, the real self as well. And just by not believing that it's one or the other, you know, and then you won't mind being here in this body and doing and going through the ups and downs of life as a human being, because you're also experiencing this greater aspect of your being as well, you know.
Yeah, and also kind of like it also kind of like you're always a bit happier than normal, not normal, but a lot of people, it's just like you're always trying to be happier and lighter.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're seeing your permanent nature, which cushions the impact of the human experience, and you tend to have a much better human experience once you've recognized what's real. It's just to let go of this idea of either or, isn't it? This last place that we separate ourselves into two. Yeah. Some idea that we came into this body, that we incarnated. Really, what if it's more like a body appeared in front of us and we're looking through it, like a pair of glasses or a pair of binoculars? I didn't come into the body. It's just here. It feels like I'm in it, but I'm just more like looking through it. Just a different way to look at it. Lovely. Good to talk to you. Thank you. Okay. I will, unless there are any other questions, I will read. Okay. I've got a couple here to read out, but Steve, we'll go with Steve.
Hello.
Hiya, how are you doing?
Not so bad, how are you?
I'm good, good.
Surprise, surprise.
Yep, shocking, I know.
I've been debating, shall I say something? The other day, someone was said to me, just in conversation, and so something about my character, and I thought, oh yeah, it's probably right. But it's just like that, it's just gone, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But gradually through the day, it started to work its way in and do its magic, and it sent me right into a tailspin, really did. So much so I'm falling out of this. I'm not going doing this no more. Falling out with you, everybody was getting falling out with you, know what I mean? And all the time I'm knowing it's in my mind. I can see what's going down, see what's happening, and I'm asking this: is it really true? Is it this?
Mm-hmm.
It was really taking me down, you know what I mean? But I've stood my ground this time.
Good.
And the tailspin sort of didn't last too long. It really, I've got see, we're going into a pretty bad one. I thought, oh, here we go. So I've been saying I'm doing pretty well as well, and I thought, oh, here we go. But it came
to prove how well you're doing. Give you an opportunity to stand your ground. It's not a test or something that's happening because you're going wrong, because it's going wrong rather, or because you're doing it wrong. Yeah.
I to see it that way. I've used that thought. Yeah, that's what's happening, you know, because it's something I was talking to somebody else about, and I was asking to be shown everything, you know. She said, but when you ask for that sort of thing, Steve, you've got to ask for the courage to go through it, because it will show you. And so I'm thinking, well, here it is, and you know what I mean. But my mind is still trying to make some sort of head and a tail of it. Mm-hmm. I want to be right. I want to explain myself. I wanted this, you know, all that was going on. And I said, well, if you explain yourself, you understood, it only happened again somewhere else. And that's what you're saying to it.
Yeah, and if somebody says something that sparks some thought process, it's usually because we're either, well, that's really not true what they've said, or it might be true actually, somewhere inside
More
there's
of
a
a mind.
doubt or something, isn't there? And maybe you just need to check it out. Well, is it true what they said? And as you look at it inside you, you're either going to come to one or the other conclusion. Like, yes, it's true, actually, maybe I could work on that, or no, it's just their opinion. It's nothing to do with me. I don't think that they're speaking the truth about me. And whichever one it is, you'll know with a certainty, and then you can move forward from that.
It's more or less what I've been doing, so I'll carry on with that.
Yeah, good.
I did say I thought maybe that's where that person's coming from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if somebody were to say something like to me like that, and now there'd be a looking and seeing, well, is that right? Was I doing what they were saying or being the way they were saying? To just be looking and seeing if it's true, and if it is true, okay, how can I move beyond that, or allow something higher than that to express, or just a discarding. I've looked and it really doesn't feel true. It's almost like we don't really want to look in case we find out it's true or something, That's what gives the mind the room to keep playing with it and talking about it.
Okay, the mind can't make its mind up, but it is not.
It's got multiple opinions. Well, it is true. Actually, actually, it's not true. How dare they say that? And on it goes.
It is, but you don't understand me. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
It'll go on for as long as you don't reach a conclusion about it inside. Look and see, is it true? Yeah, okay, well, how can I soften this edge of me a little bit? Or if it's not true, then it's not true. It's their opinion, and I don't need to think about it anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I'm more or less there. It's just I'm so dispersed yet. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
And you, love. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll read this. I've got 2 questions. There's one that's fairly short, so we'll read that before we finish today. Okay. Here we go. Hi, Helen. So grateful for your teaching. I've been on a spiritual journey for many years. Byron Katie changed my life around 20 years ago. Intellectually, I understand most of non-dual teachings, but still have a faint sense of separation and a slight underlying fear or discomfort, which often appears when I wake up at 3 a.m. For the most part, I live in acceptance of what is, but recently, even though I feel a sense of peace, it seems more like resignation, neutrality, which is lacking in the joy or bliss I wish I could experience. Any advice? Any advice would be much appreciated. Much love. Well, probably what we've said already today will help with that if you have been able to take that in. But wherever we're experiencing a diminishment of our natural state, which is peace, which deepens into joy and love and abundance, then there is some thought still being believed. There is every thought that we believe is dampening down the life force that can flow through the body, and then the peace and love and joy that we can feel as our energy that's tied up in this thought is not available for us to feel as peace and deepening into love. So you've obviously released quite a lot of these ideas, the fact that you're feeling this peace, but it's not uncommon, this 3 a.m. We have this kind of joke, this 4 a.m. Satsang, where I used to wake up at around 4 a.m. and a lot of other beings have said similar, with some fear or some unworthiness or something to go through that our mind is trying to make sense of. And if you've said here a slight fear or discomfort, then that's pointing to reflecting. It's a reflection of the idea that's still being just slightly believed inside. And fear says something like, I'm in danger, I'm not safe. There's something outside of me that's making me feel unsafe. It's the core feeling of separation, as you pointed to here. I still have a faint sense of separation. And it could just be what we've said here, that even this core idea that there is my real being, and then there is my false being, and I have to get rid of this false being, this person I thought I was, has to disappear. This sense of being someone, even that will disturb you in the end, because it's not true that they're two different things. You are the emptiness of being, the silence, infinite silence, that has been molded into the shape of a human body. And with that comes a sense of being someone while the body's here. So it's not a mistake, and it's also not different to the emptiness of being, the silence. It's as if the silence wants to experience itself. What's it like to be a human being, and all that that entails. So I'd just check out this sphere if I were you, just pointing to wherever there's any separation or division in our being, where we think there's two things, and we'll experience some amount of suffering. And the last and the first place we do that is what we're talking about here today, that this real nature is different to, separate from the egoic sense of self, that the self and ego are opposites. And it's just the last thought to let go of here. So as you question what thoughts am I still believing, you don't have to wait for it to pop up. What thoughts am I still believing? And you can also get to that by what emotions you feel, negative emotions. Fear, here you've mentioned, that would probably be the first one to look at. And then as you question that, is that true I'm not safe? Is it true I'm in danger? Or are there really two things here? Is there really any separation in my being? Do I have to experience my someoneness differently than I experience my emptiness? Does it have to feel worse when I'm being someone than when I'm being nobody and nothing? And isn't that just because I feel that this someoneness is different to the emptiness? If my person, my mind, my life, my emotions, everything is really emptiness sculpted to look like this, then there's no reason I should feel any different when I go out and interact and talk with other beings and all of that. So wherever the natural state is being diminished, it's only because some thought is being believed still. And you're sensing that most of these have gone from what you're saying here. But there's just one or two ideas maybe that are still diminishing your peace. And that peace will naturally turn into joy. You can imagine maybe that if you deeply come to know that there's nothing different to you or outside of you, that's naturally going to result in joy, isn't it? Because there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be afraid of that is not you. There's nothing at all that is not you. Of course, that then deepens into love. Everything you experience is yourself. Everyone, everything, sentient or insentient, internal, external, it's all you. Even these words are coming from you. And that deepens into love then anyway, doesn't it? Because there's nothing that is not me. Of course, you're going to come to love it eventually like you love yourself. And that's a natural deepening of what happens when you realize there's nothing outside of you at all. So just have a look at what's hanging around there that's still being believed. And as you question it, it will allow... it's not that joy is the absence of fear. It's that fear is joy diminished, really, you could say. Something like that. They're not opposites, joy and fear. It's like a dimmer switch. I turn a light on and it's full, it's bright, it'll appear as joy. I believe some thoughts and it will seemingly turn into fear, but it's not actually different. Just like the red is not different than the purple on the rainbow spectrum. So, okay, we shall leave it there for today. Thank you very much for your intelligent questions and your participation. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Helen.
Thank you.